early on. Smart move by them.
For sure. So this is going to be a best of 3 series single elimination. This is a MethodNA versus Account White Essences. Take it away, guys.
Is that Dratnus in the bottom left?
Oh, it
is.
is.
He's streaming with a cam.
Wait,
Man,
look at his
Dratnus.
head is like just. Oh, that's not
Yoda's
that's,
head.
That's Yoda's head, just barely above.
Oh, Yoda's head.
All right, I'll stop talking now.
Yoda, can you lift your head up a little bit more? Smile for me.
The forehead. Yeah, that's like a one finger right there. Man.
Lift your head up if you're reading this, Yoda.
So both teams go straight into the first boss. They each pull, I believe it was just that one crab pack right next to it. It looks like they are pulling Parasite. Method is pulling parasites into the boss, which just gives them a little more movement when they're running around with this boss.
So just to inform, that's JB's head. My bad.
Oh, JB's head. Okay.
Bursting with the Sand Queen here is very scary, especially with the first pull. We've actually seen some teams pulling those turtles with the Sand Queen, but I don't know. How do you feel about the turtle strategy on the beach, Moose? Because obviously neither of these teams are using it, but do you think it's a better way of getting a little bit more count? Or because obviously they're not pulling enough.
Honestly, I don't. What I've seen most teams that have a really fast time here do is that they sort of skip a lot of this stuff. And while it's easy and like mass, it's clumped up, very easy to pull, the cannons just make it so much quicker. And if you can do a mass pull with the cannons, it's a lot more percent and a lot more time efficient, I believe.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, it really just comes down to how well and how good you feel about the cannons, because we have seen some kind of wild strategies historically with the cannons where teams are pulling like the whole entire inside area and then using both cannons to be able to shoot it down at once. But with it being bursting and explosive, that's not really reasonable. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's rough. All right. So now you actually do have MethodNA here doing a fairly substantial pull with the Thug, a bunch of strikers. They look like they have a bunch of looters in this pack as well. Some of these mobs end up going down. They end up utilizing the dark to be able to heal through this bursting just from those small mobs that do end up getting killed. And now they are going to be able to make sure that they don't roll the bursting into something that would be significantly more challenging to heal through.
Yeah, so Account Wide Essences is actually just behind MethodNA. They're basically doing the exact same pull. They are a couple seconds behind, but here you can see the exact same pull. The bursting is starting to go out. The explosive orbs are coming out because we have so many. Corey does put that ring down to prevent them. These looters like to run away when they get really low. So that ring went down just to prevent them from pulling anything else.
I think they're both at similar amounts of count, just in this dungeon. And like you said, or like we were talking about earlier, I think because it is explosive and bursting, they are electing to not do that full beach pull. I do believe if it was a little bit more lenient to fixes, they would be doing that. All right, now you actually do see the rogue Dratnus from Account White Essences opening up some of these cages. I think I watched a YouTube video on this once. It is very important to note, if you were doing this on live, that if you enter the Awakened realm while the buffs are being grabbed, that you will not get them. So just note, if you are in the Awakened realm whenever the buffs are being grabbed from these Awakened pylons, you will not be getting the buffs. So make sure that you are patient.
Yeah, and one thing that we're seeing here that we have not seen in most of the other dungeons is that people are actually doing the Blobbo, and we're probably going to see most of the other, I think at least 2 of the obelisks from each team done before we reach that last boss, and that is just because of how the last boss in Toldorga works. Like, you basically can't move at all, so you can't have the blob, right? You can't have all the stuff on the ground. And the last boss in general is just a very scary boss to do obelisks with. And so I think I've only seen a max of 2 done with him. And even it's still a scary pull.
I think we saw 3 done with Corgus earlier.
Oh, did we? Okay.
I think it just comes down to like how quickly you can end up killing them off. Because the first explosive blast at the very end of Corgus does not knock you back. So the very first one of the fight will not knock you back. However, Samrek the Beckoner, the fear guy, will push you away, which will stack up your movement debuff. So you have to be very scared. You can do more, but it really just comes down to how long it's going to end up lasting. Because also you can't really tank Corgus in the corner whenever you're doing that many of the Awakened Lieutenants. You have to kind of tank him just out in the open, which is pretty rough. So you actually do see account-wide essences and MethodNA making their way up towards the Jess
Oh
Hallis area.
no.
It looks like MethodNA has pulled Jess through the wall, whereas account-wide essences here having a little bit of a mishap.
I believe Fax is dead here. I don't think they are going to be able to get a res. Yeah, so this is yeah, so Corey went away and Shadow melded to get the res off. So that is going to set them back a lot. Method NA is already on Jess right now. And I believe they are having some, yeah, I think they pulled some trash with him around the corner. Actually, did they?
Yeah.
I think they, oh yeah, they left this trash up and they're going to do this trash with Jess when they get around the corner.
Yeah, MethodNA has a long history of practicing just doing Jess through the cage and making sure that they try to do as little trash as possible, like in this area, like by itself, and doing a large portion of it with Jess and Bobby Hallis. This has historically been pretty rough for them just because how difficult this pull is. The Sea Speakers, of course, casting that watery dome, and just in general, the tank damage coming from the salt blasts is really rough for your tank, just normally.
Yeah, for sure. You can line of sight this, and you basically have to line of sight a lot of this stuff. So Lip using the turtle, obviously, because of the bursting stacks right there to ignore them. Help JB with the healing. There's a lot of bursting. Plus, so they do kill Jess just now, and they are moving on. I believe they're going to shadow meld most of this stuff and just do giant cannon pulls, which is what we've seen a lot. Yeah, so they're sky stepping. Pretty sure they're just going to throw the ring down right here and shadow meld around the corner.
Nervous in
Yeah.
chat saying they didn't pull him through the wall.
Oh, okay. So
at
they
all.
ran. They ran
I think
through,
they
and then
ran through. Yeah.
they ran through, then shadow, or then pulled all the trash onto him. They shadow melded the first pack. Okay. Well, similar strategy. Anyways, so they're at 40% count here, and basically now they have to make sure that they pull most of this upper wing area. Like, it doesn't, I don't think it has to be the whole entire area, but I think it's going to be a large majority of the packs, and seeing how they end up utilizing all their cannon shots here is going to be important. It looked like they accidentally got in combat with one of those Ashvane officers.
I think it was intended. I think they're pulling everything in this third room.
Okay. He was running into somebody with, okay, so somebody was in stealth and he had his true side orb up. So he got pulled by somebody that was in stealth. Whether or not it was intended is hard to tell.
Yeah, so they pulled those two and then line of sighted around the corner to gather them up, and then they pulled the rest of the room and line of sighted around the outside corner to gather those up. And so it's really just a game of line of sighting and making sure everything's gathered up so that the cannon hits them all at the same. So this is going to be very scary with all the bursting, and you see Lip and everyone getting super low with the bursting.
Oh, here comes
And
darkness.
Yoda dies. The cannon, he was the cannon guy. Ooh, this might be a full team wipe. Oh, that is not what you want to see.
So they did get 21% of their count from that one cannon, even still. I don't know how much of that ended up going down. It's hard to say how bad that's actually going to be. Their checkpoint is still further ahead. They're still ahead of account-wide essences. Account-wide essences is still on Jess Hallis because of their major run back. That just shows how difficult Toldorga as a dungeon actually is, especially with how these teams are looking to play the dungeon. They're looking to pull 45% of the count for the whole entire dungeon and effectively one trash pull. Yep. Yeah, in one trash pull, and it's like, okay, well, sometimes it looks sick, and sometimes you just make mistakes. Overall, it was a really good strategy, and if they executed it cleanly, that would have been sick. It's really hard to pull off on explosive and bursting, though.
Oh, very hard to, yeah, especially the affixes. Yeah, JB was cursing me because I chose these affixes. So this is very anti-healer. These affixes.
What are these? Yeah, why are you like this? Why did you pick these?
Listen, the thought was that most teams would coin out of Toldorga, not that everyone was a sadist and would coin into Toldorga.
Well, yeah,
so our plan sort of backfired there, but.
Do you remember whenever you could pick like the map and the affixes during MDI moves? Teams would literally pick explosive or necrotic every single time they had the opportunity to pick the affixes, and then they would pick a map that they know the other team didn't practice. So not only were you like doubling down on, like, it's like, all right, yeah, we didn't practice Toldorga that much, and then they're like, oh, it's explosive. Okay, we actually can't do anything else. Dungeon. What are we gonna do?
It also made every series go to 3 games.
Yeah, it was also true, but
rough.
The coin system is significantly better than loser picks map, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think.
Oh my god, look at Kyle. Sorry.
Any
of the
purple
devil.
carrots in chat?
Spam your turnips.
So they do run past these mobs, shadow meld, CC these mobs, and this is what we saw from a lot of teams earlier. They're just skipping this and just doing the other cannon pull with all this stuff. And again, they are line of sighting both sides of the packs in the middle to try and group up. Oh, and JB
What
dies.
did he die to?
Man, I don't think they have a battle res. Oh, they do. They do. Okay.
Click recap. Click recap. I want to see what you died to. Oh, okay,
Nope.
he got the battle res.
He's gonna be
Oh.
very far behind on this bursting.
What did he just? He just got like 100 to 0. I didn't see what it was. Maybe he was just like too far back and got clipped by the explosive, even though
I
everybody
think he
else had a
got.
line.
Oh,
I
Yoda
didn't
goes
see
dead.
what it
He is
was
their
though.
cannoner.
Oh, JB jumps to the cannon.
JB
the
jumps
hero
in. He
move.
can't heal. He can't heal. What is he doing?
They got it. They got it. It's okay.
Yeah.
All is
Lighty's
fine.
almost dead though. I think he has ignore pain. Okay, Lighty's good. This is very sloppy so far. But this is a very hard dungeon with these affixes and these giant pulls that they're doing.
It's okay. JB got in the cannon and saved the day.
Yeah. So account wide essence is actually catching up. I believe they are doing their first cannon pull here. Or is this the second cannon pull? This is the first cannon
This is
pull.
the first
So
cannon.
they are finishing this first cannon pull, and I believe they will probably do something similar to what Method did. Shroud past it and do that giant cannon pull on the other side. Account wide essences successfully cleared their first cannon pull and did not have a wipe though. So hopefully that lets them catch up a little.
Yeah. Okay. So you actually do see MethodNA here playing Urgroth Breaker of Heroes. Not going to look to play that with Overseer Corgus for obvious reasons. Just making sure that they are able to get down some of those awakened mobs because Overseer Corgus is probably the hardest boss to actually play awakened emissaries with. Would you say, Moose? I think that's probably about correct.
I can't think of any other boss that would be harder. Maybe
Vic Goth is really bad. Yeah, the last boss
I was gonna say
huge.
maybe
Vic
Caesar
Goth is... Okay, well, actually, Vic Goth is bad because the awakened mobs spawn not on the first platform.
Right. But I mean, I think it's still pretty hard with the Dominators. And I think you basically have to do 5 Dominator tentacles on that if you're gonna do awaken mobs with. Oh, everyone's so low on MethodNA.
On MethodNA, you talking about account wide essences?
I mean, account wide essences. Yeah.
Like, MethodNA is looking pretty healthy. JP's doing a good job on Night Captain Valeri. All in all, right now, MethodNA just making sure that they keep their barrel management on Valeri pretty good. You see JB running around, dropping those barrels in appropriate spots. And then on the side of account wide essences, they just made their way to Night Captain Valeri, getting one of those mobs with them as well. This is actually kind of close. I do think MethodNA is somewhere in the range of like a minute ahead, but it is within the realm of one mistake still.
They also have like 5 or 6 more deaths, and so you have to remember that's like a 20 or 30 second addition on top of account wide essences.
That is a good point.
So I think it's actually rather close.
All right, so MethodNA does down Night Captain Valeri. Now they have their last couple of cannonable mobs that they need to take care of before moving on to Overseer Corgus. Avoiding doubles is definitely the name of the game for this, but it is a fortified setting, so I expect healers in the caliber of JB and Corey May to be able to heal through doubles on a 17 fort
For sure.
pretty comfortably.
It will be scary if you get a lot of initial doubles with the obelisks up, but I think once you get the obelisks down, the boss is pretty easy. It's just that those initial the initial probably 20 to 30 seconds that's super scary.
Yeah, it's definitely going to come down to how the awakened mobs end up working out. So you're going to see MethodNA pulling Overseer Corgus into a different spot than has traditionally been pulled into. You actually do see them using basically what is the inverse of the room. It's the exact same layout as that spot that most people pull him into, except it is on the other side. The downside of pulling Corgus all the way over here is that you have a higher chance of getting more doubles on you because of how Corgus ends up queuing his spells whenever he's on the move and stuff. JB popping Way of the Crane here, spinning to win, doing as much healing as spinning Crane Kick will allow him to do. trying to down Void Weaver Malthier and Samrak the Beckoner as quickly as possible. This is by far the most dangerous point here for MethodNA, making sure that they continue to dodge Crossfire Ignition and just making sure that they're getting like Mass Dispel / Revivaled off on the Fear and just not stacking up that no move debuff that Corgus gives you is important. It looks like both of those Awakened mobs have gone down for MethodNA. Account-wide essences are making their way up to Overseer Corgus, but MethodNA is definitely securely in the driver's seat here.
Yeah, they're in the clear now. As long as they don't do anything, out of the ordinary, they should kill this with relative ease. JB rolling out. Make sure he doesn't get stunned. Hopefully he doesn't. All right, he's good now. Back to his spot. But yeah, account-wide essences now about to start the boss, and they are basically doing the exact same thing, pulling Corgus over to the side
They
just
have
to for the
3
obelisk
obelisks,
positioning.
though. So they're actually playing it with Urgroth Breaker of Heroes, which is the guy who ended up casting Dark Fury / Tank Buster, their Spirit Breaker. That's pretty dangerous and an interesting strategy. You just have to make sure that you are able to get out of melee as quickly as possible.
Yep.
Oh, MethodNA. Oh, okay. No, that's account-wide essences that Dratnus got stunned.
Yep.
And okay, he ends up living somehow. Got very fortunate.
I think this is only 2. I think they just did
Oh, okay. So they
different.
played
Yeah,
Samrak. Okay, they're playing Breaker of Hero. Okay, interesting. So
yeah.
they played the Fear guy, but
So
MethodNA
Method
does
NA
end up
is
taking the
done.
match. Paul.
And I don't think their deaths is enough to account for the time difference. Account-wide essences still has about 50%. So yeah, Method NA takes Toldorga.
Sanguine and Grievous. On previous maps, we're seeing these teams really deal with these affixes super cleanly so far at this 17 key level. But here we go. We are going to start. We are currently 1-0 Method NA versus Account Wide Essences on King's Rest. Guys, take it away.
Yeah, so starting off with JB's 5-head in the corner here, doing a pull right off the beginning there, just killing those Shadow of Zul and getting them started. And we actually did not see this from other groups. We actually saw other groups shroud into the first boss area and start the gong. So Method NA is opting to kill these two rather than pull these two in with the gauntlet. What we saw, yeah. So this is what we've been seeing, the standard pull from account-wide essences. So
Well, it absolutely is a slower pull to be doing it the way that MethodNA is doing it. We've seen teams like even this tournament where they're pulling the two constructs into the Golden Serpent and they're pulling the two other constructs into the Gauntlet area. So they're making it more efficient for a little bit less safe pull. Whereas
right.
so account-wide essence is doing that where they're probably going to be pulling the constructs in the Golden Serpent and into the Gauntlet area where MethodNA is taking a what seems to be a safer strategy. Maybe there's a larger reason that they're doing it the way they're doing it. It also doesn't help that they don't have Blood Elf racial, so they have to do a bunch of random shenanigans, whether it be like Rogue walks in, cloaks the whole entire pack of those minions of Zul, or whatever else. It can be very challenging to be able to kill them. Like you can kill them with DPS, but killing off the shield is not really reasonable most of the times.
Yeah, so they're actually doing the exact same pull. Obviously, they're not bringing in the two slammy boys, but they're doing the entire room. So yeah, I mean, I sort of don't know why they did those two. I think that was fairly inefficient,
It's
but
just
we'll have to
safe.
see what they. Yeah, it's
It,
definitely safer.
it absolutely is inefficient, but it is a safer strategy, and there's nothing wrong like with that. The two like pulling a bunch of the constructs with the gauntlet area or pulling the two constructs with the gauntlet area is like really frustrating to do.
Oh, it is
Um,
very
so
frustrating.
yeah, you actually do have account wide essences here early on with the lead. Facts on that Unholy Death Knight, which is quite interesting because I was watching him stream last night and he was screaming that he has quote never played Unholy before and doesn't know what he's doing. So
Okay, he has an unholy DK alt, I know for a fact, but I know he does not like to play it. So I think they are forcing him to play it.
okay.
Unholy definitely it's actually not super useful in King's Rest because there aren't any mass pulls aside from that second boss room with all the blobs. Uh, Potentially at the very end with the bridge, depending on how big they pull. I think those are the only like giant pulls that Unholy would be. Which, to be fair, those are
Oh,
some of the most crucial.
Sanguine. The
Oh,
golden
he got
serpent got
healed.
healed for a
Yeah.
couple of percent. I don't okay, so it's
It
5%
wasn't
per
big,
tick.
but
I don't know how much healing that was. It probably wasn't a ton, but he was standing there casting his gust while in sanguine.
right, yeah. Oh, as someone pointed out, Unholy does have the ability to control some of those mobs on the bridge via their control undead. So that could be a reason they brought Unholy to make that pull safer. Like maybe they're doing a giant pull and doing that. Um,
All right, so now you actually did see there. It looked like Corey May was getting ready to go and grab those two other constructs to pull with this gauntlet trash from Team Account Wide Essences. MethodNA already starting up the gauntlet and not needing to pull those constructs into it. MethodNA is kind of caught up, even though Account Wide Essences is taking what is the more efficient and quicker
yeah.
strategy.
Yeah, so it's pretty close, pretty neck and neck. I think they are one gauntlet pack ahead, I believe, right? That's the second pack that they Account Wide Essences is dealing with the second pack of the gauntlet. And so you're seeing here the since they did skip the constructs, they also have the Shadow of Zul's that they have to deal with. So you see the binding shot, and actually Dratnos got feared from the Shadow of Zul, so that's a little scary with all that sanguine and poison in the way. I think he's just going to have to sort of AFK it here and just wait till they can bring him in.
Shadow Zul monk ass. It's minions.
Minions of Zul, man. Can you imagine 10 Shadow of Zul's coming at you?
No, I can't even imagine one Shadow Zul, man. The mob
So
sucks.
someone in chat saying he was watching JB's stream and they pulled the first two on accident.
Oh, okay.
Aha.
That makes sense.
Well,
That would make sense.
that makes significantly more sense now. You actually do see that Ring of Peace coming out from MethodNA right as that king does channel his lightning rod. You have to Ring of Peace him after he begins casting it, otherwise he will continue to cast it. So that was really good out of MethodNA. Account Wide Essences still dealing with these constructs with some of their trash. I don't know how, but MethodNA is actually just catching up and may actually surpass Account Wide Essences.
So what I noticed is that account-wide essences, while they were trying to do the constructs, they actually got blocked off between Sanguine and the Poison in the room before the
Interesting.
Gauntlet. And so they actually didn't even like they paused the Gauntlet for basically half of the construct's HP, which obviously was I don't think was intended because you generally want to do it with the Gauntlet. That's the whole purpose of waiting and doing it with it. But yeah, I think that was just sort of unfortunate for them, which obviously allowed MethodNA to catch up significantly.
I mean, they're ahead now.
Yeah,
They
yeah, yeah.
actually pulled ahead. Hmm.
And I think part of that is also the Unholy DK doesn't really do significant damage in these pulls. Aside from the 5 pack at the very beginning, the Unholy DK isn't really contributing a whole lot to these 2 to 3 pulls, right? Versus the Demon Hunter, right? That's the difference. Yeah, Demon Hunter obviously does significantly more damage, especially with Merith's Fang.
Yeah, I think it's also partially due to the 5% damage buff coming out of that Mistweaver monk as well.
That as well, yeah.
Because Corey May being on that Holy Paladin, they do lose that 5% damage buff that J.B is bringing. Whatever that character's name is, J.T.
J dot bot, J dot.
It's
So,
J.T.
so they are doing Samric the Fear Boy here,
Oof, nice revival.
which oh yeah, that was good. So Samric, when you do him by himself, you do have these guys, the fiends that put a stacking bleed on the closest target. Generally the tank, but it can go on any melee or hunter pets or anything like that. And so those can be very scary. Obviously, they had a whole lot of AoE between the focus Azurite beam, I beam, all that stuff. So they got obliterated. It wasn't really a big deal, but they are kiting him across the construct to avoid that construct. They don't really want to pull him. It is very inefficient to pull just the one construct rather than you can pull multiple mobs on the bridge down the road.
Yeah, uh, it's going to be interesting to see how they're able to kite out Sanguine in this room for both teams. This is going to be a huge point of time save or loss, depending on how clean you can be with your Sanguine management. MethodNA with that Ring of Peace does have a pretty significant advantage over the Unholy DK single grip. Just making sure that you were able to get all those embalming fluids off of the constructs.
Oh, they're healing. They healed to full.
That is what
Man,
you hate to see.
unluck. Um, That is probably one of the benefits of the Unholy Decay, especially in this room, is with Sanguine, everything's just going to blow up at the same time,
All right,
especially if they're able to pull all of this onto the boss.
one Twilight Dev, please, bro. One Twilight Dev.
Man,
I
I
need
don't think
this,
anyone can be worse than now at missing Twilight Devs in this room. I think he missed 5 in a row.
dude. I love now.
All right,
Oh,
so
into
it
Machemba.
looks like, yeah,
This is really good
here's the
from
Unholy Decay. Oh, Twilight
Account-wide
Dev.
essences.
And there goes everything. There
Okay,
you
so
go.
MethodNA.
3 million damage from Fax coming out.
I think MethodNA was looking to do the Entomb strategy for Machemba, but I don't know if they got it or not. I can't really tell. TBD on that. Account-wide essences actually caught up really well inside of this room, just because of how they were able to kite out their
Yeah.
sanguine and just minimizing the sanguine healing, just like we were talking about earlier. That is the most important point.
Yeah, so they are behind still. It looks like about 20 to 30% of the boss, but it is a very close match just because of that Unholy Decay in this room significantly caught.
Do you think it was just the Unholy DK, or do you think there's more to it?
I mean, the Unholy Decay funneled a ton of damage into the boss. I mean, he was literally at like
I
2
mean,
million, bursted to 2 million damage or something like.
the boss is still significantly ahead by MethodNA. MethodNA is actually pulling further ahead now due to their boss damage. Somehow.
I think it's been about the same. But yeah, so MethodNA obviously finished it ahead still. So they are going to the bridge now, and we'll see. We've sort of seen a couple different teams vary how big they pull this bridge, and so it'll be interesting to see how big they go right here.
Yep, you got MethodNA here. They were running down. This is actually a pretty spicy pull. It looks like they're pulling 3 packs at once. They're utilizing this very small edge of like this very small lip to be able to get all of the mobs grouped up so that they are able to DPS them down with Way of the Crane and other AoE abilities quite nicely.
Yeah,
Ooh, here comes
we actually did see Depleto do this exact same pull. They did have the Vengeance Demon Hunter for that extra utility. Man, can I
Yeah.
get a sigil, please?
Oh, please one sigil.
uh,
JB. Oh,
Oh,
I
that is not good, especially with the bleed. You still have a berserker up and 2
did he
raptors.
have the berserker bleed on him? How I don't know
I'm
what he was
not sure.
getting hit
Oh,
by.
so Lip also
Oh,
goes
Lip
down.
Lip
Lip was
ended up
trying
going
to
down as well.
res him, and the raptor came right after him. That is very unfortunate.
No,
Uh,
man.
this is what account-wide essences needed to significantly catch up. I believe they are. If they pull this off cleanly, they will pass Method, in which it looks like they are
Yep.
doing cleanly.
Account-wide essences, if they're able to capitalize on that small mistake there from MethodNA, this could be their chance to be able to get back in the match. They're definitely in the lead now. It just
Yeah.
kind of depends on how they are able to do awakened mobs with King Dazar, how many they're able to do. Because at this point, they're going on to the council boss. They're going to have to do like one more trash pull plus Shadow of Zul. It shouldn't be anything that's too dangerous, right?
I don't believe so. See, we saw a couple teams pull these 2 berserkers in with the boss. It does not look like they are doing that.
Yeah. So MethodNA here walked back to Machemba's room, tried to kite back the pack to make sure that they are able to not have to fully reset that. They are now making their way towards the Council of Tribes, whereas account-wide essences already down to 50% on Cool the Butcher. Council of Tribes, of course, a 3-phase fight, so once this boss goes down, it's not going to be over, but pretty good here from account-wide essences. They're solidly in the lead.
Yeah, one of the things, the benefits of bringing a paladin to King's Rest in general is this 3rd boss.
Yes.
This is a fortified dungeon, so the severing axe on this last boss doesn't hurt significantly, but it still destroys people. And having that bop just makes it so much easier, and it alleviates a lot of the healing necessary. So looking at Method NA, they do pull those 2 berserkers. Did not clearly was not intentional. I think JB was just
Oh.
lagging behind. Oh, maybe it is intentional. I think both of them were lagging behind, and JB obviously died because he's not a tanker boy, and Lighty just went ahead and pulled it. So I think they're just going to kill this and res JB. You don't really need a healer because
Reset?
Lighty can take one, and then Shaq can just blade dance the other berserker, right? So you technically don't need a healer for these.
How is he gonna
Oh,
get
he
back?
he
Yeah.
released. Oh
I
no.
mean, he can't get back.
I
They
get
don't have
that's
a
true.
battle res.
Oh, this is very bad. They didn't pull the construct, so he has to run all the way around. This is actually very detrimental.
All right. So if this were a Dratnus YouTube video, this would be top 5 Keystone Masters moments for him. All right, so now they are on to Zanzal the Wise, dealing with those totems, and now they're back on to Aka Ali the Conqueror. They only need to make sure that they do group soak this barrel through, or you can solo it if you use parry or blade dance. You can also jump off the edge and jump back on if you are skilled, but I don't know if I would advise that for a
Yeah,
tournament setting
that's
like this. Would be really funny, but I don't think it's
yeah,
that
it's
useful.
definitely not, especially on a 17, not needed. If you're doing like a 24, sure. But yeah, so if you look at the little right angle off the edge right there, you can actually jump across that while like as the charge is going off. And since there's no path, it's basically like being a demon hunter and just like fell rushing back on the platform, right? Because there's no path, it just cancels it. But yeah, it is very scary to do. You need
Yeah,
precise timing.
yeah.
But they successfully kill the Council of Tribes, and they are going to. It looks like they're going to pull this.
Yeah,
They
they
might
have some
just
tribes
Shadow
to do.
Meld on.
No.
Yeah.
They have
Okay,
some
they're
tribes to
doing
do
all
still.
this. Yeah.
Uh, I think it's going to come down to how they end up doing Awakened mobs with King Dazar. Of course, MethodNA is up 1-0 here, so this would push it to a game number 3.
Yep.
But Account-Wide Essences has had a really clean run and showing that they have practiced a significant amount. It kind of makes you think, what if they did win their coin pick? Like,
Yeah. I mean, they would have knocked
you
out
know what I'm saying,
MethodNA.
right?
So
Like,
yeah. Yeah. So they successfully clear these guys, and it looks like I'm pretty sure they just have Zool to do at this point. Zool plus the. I think they left 2 obelisks up or 3. I don't remember how many they left up. I know they did 1 for sure.
I think they have 3 still available. I don't
Okay.
think doing a bunch of obelisks with the Czar is actually that dangerous in the scope of a tournament on a 17 level, especially in a fortified setting. However, Tank Buster plus Dazar with that blade combo can be scary if you're not careful. Account wide essence is moving incredibly slow. Okay, so what they're doing here is they're CCing all 3 of those mobs. Then Dratnus is going to walk up and get combat with all 3 of them because they will only aggro combat onto one target whenever they are CC'd inside of stuff like Hunter Trap, Repentance. I don't know what else they're using, Blind.
Yeah.
Um,
Any
and
in
then
combat
Dratnus
CC.
can vanish it off. Yes, exactly. Then Dratnus can vanish it off, and the group will no longer be in combat. Dratnus will no longer be in combat, and they are good to go. Move past those mobs. That
Yeah.
was not exactly the most efficient thing I've ever seen, but it was pretty good.
They
They just had to wait for
yeah.
the brute, right? That's
Yeah,
why
the
it was
the
inefficient.
brute path sort of screwed them. It was really bad timing, and so I think doing that, they could have CC'd it regardless, right? Because they CC'd it while the brute was walking by, and that didn't get them in combat. And so just doing that while not the most efficient wasn't that much. And they are so ahead of MethodNA at this point, it doesn't really matter in this scheme. As long as they don't mess up the last
I mean, they
boss, they
haven't had a death
should
yet.
win this.
They haven't even had a
Right.
death yet. They have all their battle reses and stuff. So this has been a pretty good run. Jacob does end up going down
Oh, Jacob
to
dies.
um,
That is that
Warrior versus Shadow.
warrior.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the classic. Any prot warriors. I
I'm
think everyone
sorry
is scared.
about.
Oh, Corey also dies, so they don't really have a battle. Or I think they use a battle res on
They just have
Corey
to
and then
battle res this.
master res.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about the caster curse. I didn't mean it. All right, so better hope that they don't need that. They better hope that that battle res doesn't come back to haunt them. They do have 1 still available to them. They do also have Bloodlust available on Dazar here. They have to make sure that all these awakened mobs do end up going down
Yeah.
cleanly, and this should be pretty good for them. MethodNA still on Council of Tribes, so account wide essences could afford a major mistake here and still be okay.
Uh, I think if they wipe here, it would be a very close match. So they need to.
I
Ooh, Fax
agree.
die. Man, I don't know if we're
I'm
jinxing
sorry,
them or
what?
what, but Pax died, so that is not what you want. He is getting battle res by Dratnos, it looks like. I don't think he had time to set up anything. I don't think he used his cooldowns. I think he died pretty quickly. I want to say it's
Probably
because
lost
of a
Bloodlust,
missed
right?
kick. He did lose Bloodlust, yeah. I want to say it's because of a missed kick that the caster started at range, and I think they were just late to go out and kick him to bring him in. So it looks like so everyone's at half HP now. It looks like they are focusing the tank buster. In fact,
As they
died once
should, yes. That
again.
is in fact the one that they should be
Ooh, so
focusing.
this is very scary. They have the Raptor and Fax is dead, and you
And
do have
Jacob
the tank, but and Jacob
died.
is dead. Wow,
Okay,
that is
so huh.
oof. All right.
Huh.
Well,
All right.
well, you
Well, now it's a
predicted it.
close match.
You predicted it. So this is now a very close match,
Now it's a very
and
close match without bloodlust for count-wide essences.
yeah. So I think MethodNA might actually be ahead at this point, or it's very neck and neck.
No, they're still in Shadow's Rule.
Right, but they still have Bloodlust for their last boss,
That is
which
true.
is going to help them dramatically. Like account wide essences going in with the three obelisks, not having Bloodlust is super scary on King Desire.
Somebody in Twitch chat said, Dratnos, please check your PayPal.
Man, man.
Dratnos was the hero that the team needed, man. Dratnos went out in battle as that guy.
All right, so they do successfully kill Shadow Azul without any deaths. Account-wide essences are so literally they're back at the exact same spot here. I'm not sure. Let's see. Account-wide essences has 8 deaths now, as opposed to MethodNA's 3 deaths. So time-wise, account-wide essences is behind at this point, especially since MethodNA has their bloodlust still.
I don't know about that. I think pulling the boss quicker is a bigger gain than bloodlust in this scenario. The major drawback here would be account-wide essences comp. I think is just like strictly worse at killing bosses than MethodNA's.
Yeah.
Oh,
Something
baby.
that was very close.
That was
Something I
that was
wanted to,
danger.
yeah, something I wanted to point out. The positioning of MethodNA, they actually started. So knowing that the caster obelisk is on the far right, they actually started on the far left to line of sight him, so that he's forced to come around the corner, as opposed to account wide essence is actually just starting in the middle where he spawns, and they're forced to interrupt it to bring him in. So it is using their positioning to their advantage.
Looks like Account Essences may be able to actually tackle the 3 mini bosses without Bloodlust, whereas MethodNA here, Yoda has gone down, which is not good. Oh,
I'm not sure.
JB, you have a big F on your screen as you do have that tornado debuff.
I don't think they can res Yoda. I think he's in the purple stuff from the Blobby
Oh, the
Boy. I
blood.
think they have to
Okay, that blood
wait.
of Corruptor is
Yeah,
also at 50% health. This is
yeah, this is pretty
incredibly
scary.
bad.
Yeah, this pull in general is very scary. There's so much damage going out from King Jazar lore between the leap, and if you get hit by the raptor, or if you get hit by a tornado, tornadoes do significant amount of damage on fortified. I believe they scale with fortifieds. There's actually a lot of damage going. Oh, Yoda dies again. I
Account
think
Wide
Shaq
Essence
might
is wiped.
again, man. This is very Monka-esque from both teams at the moment. But it
I think I've
looks
seen this
like,
before from
oh
the
no,
Eastern
Lighty goes
region.
down. Shaq goes down.
Don't
Oh,
trigger me.
both
Don't.
teams.
Okay, okay.
Both teams full wipe again. This is
So
a race to who can kill King Desire first.
Okay, if they need a tip from the Eastern region, the biggest tip I would advise them to do is to pull all of the trash back to the death point and throw your bodies at it. It worked. It works, I promise.
Man.
Okay, stop spamming NA lol in chat. This is not an NA problem.
No, this is actually a very hard pull to pull off
Genji, you
in
were
general.
watching premium content. Thanks.
All right, it's a race to who can kill the obelisks first.
This is a weekly no leaver. Absolutely, a weekly no leaver. That's the best way of describing this key, I think. Dratnos has opened up LFG. He has typed set plus 17 King's Rest, weekly no lever, learning
Man.
group, checking IO.
Learning group, checking IO. Link corruption.
Link corruption, yes, exactly. Account Wide Essences has pulled King Desar again, MethodNA, readying up for another pull, as neither team has Bloodlust.
Man, maybe they'll just keep pulling until they get Bloodlust back.
Man.
Oh. So All right, I don't want to jinx it, but the tank guy just went down for account-wide essences. They only have 2 left. Hopefully in the clear soon. TM. They do spawn the raptor. Is that the second raptor? No, that is the first raptor that just spawned.
Man.
Man,
Yeah, no,
the
those
blob
are
is about to die. It
the
looks like they're
I
fine
think
at the
everybody's
moment.
been dying to the blob. I don't even think people are dying to unavoidable damage. I think it's just the blob plus the tornado dot.
It's the tornado plus I think someone died to they got feared into the blob puddle. And so they just obviously couldn't do anything about that. But
Feared by what?
they got I think it was like the second raptor came out.
They haven't reached Raptor Fear yet. Corey?
The first time I think they did. Or maybe they didn't.
They're just
All right, maybe I'm making things up.
I don't know, but okay. So now, account wide essences decided to DPS down Raban instead of keeping it up and maximizing their cleave. MethodNA, I think, is at slightly behind in the fight compared to account wide essences. I can't tell the difference in deaths. I think account wide essences is 14 and MethodNA is at 9. I'm not 100% sure if that's correct or not.
I think it is at this point,
Okay,
and it
so that means
looks
that account wide
like
essences has to kill this boss over 25 seconds
yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
Which
Okay, so that
it's
is correct.
pretty neck and neck at this point. Yeah. I think account-wide essence is slightly ahead. I don't know if they're 25 seconds ahead, so it'll be really close, assuming both teams. Everyone has their obelisk, assuming we don't have wipe number 20, but we'll see. We'll see. It looks like account-wide
All right,
or Method
Tazawa has
NA
died.
get Tasala down on both sides, so they are in the last phase. Both teams should be in the clear. I don't want to jinx anyone here.
All right. Drop it to a 16 and 3 chest at MethodNA.
Man,
You guys just missed the timer. I don't even know what to say anymore, man. I ran out of stuff to talk about.
Oh man!
Start imitating Dranos again.
Absolutely not. That's once
a cast.
Kind of thing. Yeah. All right. So
so it
account wide
looks like
essences is going to be down in King Desar, and once King Desar dies, now 25 seconds has started for MethodNA, but MethodNA
no Method NA killed it at the same time. So
also down King Desar. So
it
I
looks
think
like
that's a
Method
congratulations
NA.
to MethodNA for a 2-0.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
So somehow
is that a
one of these
2-0?
teams won these dungeons. It ended eventually, and Method NA moves on to the next round.
All right. Well, that's going to be a 2-0 for MethodNA.